We know the formula: problem, reaction, solution. What's the problem? Monetary system's coming to an end. It's time to roll over to the next system that doesn't include the dollar. Reaction: create as much fear and panic as you can. Create as much desperation and destitute in the population so that they'll become dependent upon the government. And the solution: roll out the opportunity that they have already pre-planned, which it looks like in 2022 it might end up being universal guaranteed income. Let's talk about this. All right, so I want to take a quick minute to share some thoughts. Came across an interesting article that I haven't heard about in quite some time now, given the fact that this past year we've had, I think, a total of two or three different packages passed: American Recovery, American Rescue, American Infrastructure, and the Build Back Better plan. It looks like it's been paused for now, but I think it's intentional. And so doing this video here, I just want to share my quick sense or highlight an article that I came across that might give you something to just consider about what I'm going to put for you today. And let me know, of course, let me know where I could be wrong, could be right. Let me know. I'm always curious to get your guys' feedback. And if you enjoy little short, quick takes like this, feel free, hit the thumbs up button, subscribe, and definitely take this information and share it. Just give people something to think about. Let them chew on it and do what they got to do with it. But universal basic income, 2022. It seems like all the framework has been laid for it to come into fruition, given the circumstances that they've created. And there's three possible ways that this could play out. And of course, there's probably more, but just what comes to mind real quick is that we have the current removal of stimulus, or the easy money policy that's being told will be withdrawn in the beginning of 2022. At the same time that there's a dollar liquidity crisis where more nations need more dollars now than they ever have before to meet current debt obligations, of which by them pulling a punch bowl from this whole Ponzi scheme, it will lead to a very disastrous situation where there might be some type of market seize up, i.e. correction. And there goes the problem that we're going to have to face sometime soon. 2022 looks like it might be the time frame. And then also, in order to prevent that or to escalate it further as a part of their proposed response to this market issue, it might be the actual cyber attack. So I've talked about that enough. If you're interested in find out more about my thoughts on that, I'll put the link up above for the video I did a couple weeks ago. But if the cyber attack event, then that right there would be the reason why they had to respond the way they did. It would impact people's pockets the most because financially, everybody's world for the most part is denominated in dollars within the financial system. And if it comes to a halt and you can't access it, there are going to be problems. The third event that could possibly take place, which I haven't really touched on much just because as of now, there's been so many clues given to us as what they would like to see, is an alternative false flag of some kind. And the reason I think that could be on the table is given the fact that in November 8th of this upcoming year is the midterms. And so we have, I think, 435 seats in the House up for grabs, as well as in the Senate. I think there's 34 out of 100 seats up for grabs. And of course, within, I think, 30 or so states, there's going to be some governmental shifts within those states there. And so this is what I can see playing out. In the next couple of months, we're going to see disastrous economic conditions in the markets. And of course, that's going to lead to some type of response. And then on the second note, if things get out of hand, I can see them pulling the plug, which is what they've been preparing for with all the prior cyber events. And so pulling the plug basically puts the economy on pause. It removes everybody's financial dealings at this current time frame, and it makes it easier to roll out the solution, which of course I'm going to get to the universal guaranteed income. And then before we get to that point, if we're actually able to get through spring and summer without there being some type of event, and we're rolling into the end of 2022, November 8th is the date I'm putting out there because that's the midterms. If the liberal left stands a chance at losing control of this narrative where they're not able to push any of their agendas from January to November, I can imagine there being some type of false flag event or all of those events happening at one single time, therefore leading into universal guaranteed income, which could be rolled out well before the end of 2022. So real quick, I want to walk through this article and share some of my thoughts on it because this is what got my mind racing right now, trying to put all these pieces of the puzzle together. And I'll try to line this up so it all makes sense in a moment. So here's the article I'm referring to here, and it came out a couple hours ago, but I think it's very timely as we're entering into the end of 2021 and heading into 2022. It says the year basic income programs went mainstream. Give you an idea what's going on here. I highlight a couple things. And of course, I'll include this link down below if you guys want to find out more for yourself. But just to touch on the surface, it says at least 20 Guaranteed income pilots have been launched in cities and counties across the U.S. since 2018. So this goes to show that this whole need for currency directly injected to the populace has been going on for quite some time now. And it says, and that more than 5,400 families and individuals have started receiving between $300 and $1,000 a month, which has totaled approximately 35 million or so, which has all been privately funded, might I add. Scroll down here, it says these figures mark the close of a year of rapid growth for U.S. programs that give some residents direct cash payments. It's always been about removing and minimizing your options and being the primary source to directly be your source and provider, which is what the government's trying to do. It says with a half a dozen other pilots promised to launch in the cities next year. So we have more pilots coming. It says for many advocates, the concept of a basic income has all evolved from the more expansive UBI, universal basic income, to all residents. It says to more targeted guaranteed income programs that have the goal of narrowing inequality and dismantling poverty. It is no way you can alleviate inequality and poverty with a central bank Ponzi scheme that grows through fractional reserve lending, where they create fictitious currency out of nothing and pass it to the people who first dibs towards expanding their own pockets first. It's not possible. Next one here says, still the local programs are small in scale and duration, and the nationwide push to expand them comes at the quest for a federal guaranteed income policy. Has not yet succeeded. So they've been laying this framework for some time where they want to take these pilots that's been rolled out over the last 3 or 4 years that have grown substantially and make it a federal guaranteed income policy. So all along, the whole goal was to create a national program supplied to you by one person. It was not intended to be the government. It was intended to be the central bank itself. The fate of the closest thing to this is a child tax credit. It hangs in a balance. So this past year on the federal level, the child tax credit was the rollout of what will be used this upcoming year as a part of their push to create desperation amongst the population, because they've been giving out 300 or how much ever each individual qualified for, and they cut that off. And then they put it in the Build Back Better bill to see if it could get passed. And they've been using that as a selling point. But as of right now, it hasn't been passed. And I think that can be used deliberately to show how all along it was all in the efforts of trying to provide people money and stimulus to prevent inequality and to prevent poverty. And so Manchin himself could be that good guy, bad guy being used or playing his part in the idea of trying to further create desperation in the population, so that it makes it easier when things really, really get tough, when the market seizes up, or there's some type of cyber event, or there's some type of false flag. It'll be a no-brainer to come out with their federal program that they've been wanting to do for quite some time now. Then lastly here, it says, so if 2021 was the year of guaranteed income experiments launching and capturing the national imagination, so they've sown the seeds as to what's possible, more than enough stimulus checks, more than enough tax credits been given, it says 2022 will be the year we'll see if these local targeted experiments can translate into long-term shifts. So there we have it. Ultimate goal is to create long-term shifts to where they've sown enough seeds to where the populace now is more than groomed and prepared for the idea that they're going to need help when and if something happens, which of course all that is being done right now on purpose. They're deliberately withdrawing stimulus from the economy at the same time the economy is dependent upon it to survive. Equities markets, the bond market, all these overinflated assets they need to correct, because it's no longer sustainable. They can try the best they can and keep this thing on life support, but at some time it's going to need to come down, because that's the only thing that help things make sense, as well as allow them to roll us into this next digital transition they're trying to take us into. So they need as much desperation, they need as much pain as possible, and it all is subject to whether or not the resistance continues, whether or not more people wake up in time to realize that we've been lied to from the start. None of this is real. This is all an illusion in regards to the narrative that they're trying to paint for us to follow, rather than doing the best we can to remove ourselves from this system while we still can, taking back your liberty, taking back your freedom, taking back your time as best as you can, pursuing what's in your heart in the form of following your dreams and aspirations for what God has shown you He wants you to do. But anyway, I can go rant on forever. But anyway, I just want to show you this article here, how this kind of triggered the thought that upcoming year, expect some type of program, because that's the only solution that they're going to be able to conjure up as they bring down the markets, or some type of event, or that false flag event, as I mentioned. And I think the biggest threat to their narrative will be the left and right paradigm that they love to use when it comes to Democrats and Republicans. And so November 8th, the midterm elections will be crucial, because if the Democratic or the liberal left loses control, it's going to make it that much more harder for those individuals to execute the deep state's agenda. They're trying to destroy this country so that they can build it back better. And if there are any politicians out there that mean well and that really want to fight for our country and for the populace by pushing back on this globalist takeover, then that might be the time where they may lose control, and therefore some type of event is unfolded, and therefore the solution will be universal guaranteed income, or as I always say, universal basic allowance. But anyway, just my thoughts. Where did I miss it? Where was I right? Where was I wrong? Let me know. Leave a comment down below. Curious to hear what you guys think. See you guys later.